Hello and welcome to this very special day. This is in part of the Greatest You giveaway. We're really excited. Christine Miskin or Roman Miskinis. Roman is here and so is Selby, and you know Lori and I, and we're really excited to have you here. And so today we're going to talk about how do I know who I am, which is a really big, incredible topic because we don't know who we are until we actually know. So welcome everybody. Here's Lori, my partner, and Christine, hi.
Hi.
And Barry, hi.
Hi.
Glad to have you here.
This is such a thrill. I mean, honestly, when we think about one of the biggest reasons why me and I started the Greatest You Academy is because people are always, coming to us with that issue of, I'm so torn in my life, all the time. Like I have this particular issue. I don't know what to do in this relationship. I don't know what to do with this job. Should I buy this house? Should I do, all of this, all of the time. And so much of our energy is going in to try to figure out what's right for us. And so much, inner turmoil that goes on when we're making decisions, or just when we're waking up in the morning and we're like, well, what do I need? How do I take care of myself today? All of that comes down to this really fundamental and beautiful question of who am I? And for a lot of people, they've never experienced knowing who they are. So they don't know that that's possible. So, it's one of the most beautiful things that I think that we have done is to be able to not tell people who they are, but guide them in a self-discovery process so that they get to that place where they generally, none of us always know, right? But where they generally feel like, yeah, this is right for me. This is how I want to be in the world. So these two incredible people, Christine and Barry, are the masters of helping people, celebrating people, who they are, and then teaching us how to celebrate who we are. And so for this discussion today, we could not have had two more just genuine, authentic people to come and share with us. So, we could start this in any number of a bajillion ways. And I really didn't want to script us very much because there's just so much that I know is going to come out of the beautiful, back and forth. So I would love to just start by saying, how do you guys help people and guide people into understanding who they really are? Let's see, who should start?
Should we do alphabetical order simply because that is
they're
fair. Both so incredible. It's like
I know.
I'm pick and choose. We're gonna have to go alphabetical.
I was going ladies first.
Oh, whichever.
A true gentleman.
Yes.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
You're the best.
So Christine, I think that was you because
Oh, okay. Ladies first.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, sir. What I will say, first to kind of alleviate all of the pressure and the buildup, because this is an exciting topic. This is something we're often searching for in our lives, the hero's journey. But the truth of it is you can reinvent yourself at any given time. As Lori and I have shared about our similarities and the unfoldment of the events of our lives, you can't, I totally am not who I was a few months ago. And I think that's the beautiful thing, because then it gives us permission to just go for it. Hey, today, I think I'm going to wear these red feathers and come on the show, and I'm just going to have fun and playful and let my fiery side out and really dance and sing and connect and communicate with these beautiful beings. And that's who I am today. Today, I am a woman who is so rooted in my mission here, which is to link arms, to join voices, to connect our hearts, and to really be of service. And so I just want to say again, because I feel like, Mia and Lori are giving us so much of the spotlight, but thank you to these beautiful women for really grounding us in a message that can be really crazy and confusing and, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And we'll talk more about it. But just to start off is the fact that you can reinvent yourself today, tomorrow, the next day. Nobody says you have to be the same person, show up the same way, as long as you're being true to yourself. So that's a
Amen.
little, that's a
Amen.
little thing that we'll get
Yeah.
into, but just stay
Yeah.
true to you.
I love it. I love it. So you get to decide is what I just heard. You decide who you are by the way you see yourself. And number two, it can change. You don't have to, you don't have to be in a situation. Well, that doesn't sound like me because I'm very reserved. You know, how often do I hear people say that? Well, I'm just not outgoing. Well, maybe you just thought you weren't, or that suited you at the time, but now you want to, you know, something else suits you. So I love that. Such an important reminder. Go ahead and be different. Go ahead and be different today. And then next Tuesday, be somebody else if you want, if that feels right. I love that. Yeah. So thank you for opening that up in that way. And Barry, what is your kind of your overall big picture take on this all important question?
Boy, trying to distill it down to a short answer. This is the challenge.
And we'll dig further. So it's
Yeah,
not,
just go for it.
we're not going to say, okay, thank you, all
Well,
done.
let me start from a different angle, which is for many of us, we oftentimes look at ourselves based upon who we are around in our relationships.
Mhm.
So who we are at work is different from who we are in our relationships. Who we are with the kids are different from who we are with the parents, et cetera, et cetera. And so sometimes we don't even know who we really are on our own because we're always basing our life based on reflection about people around us. And on the extreme level of that, and there's actually something I'm doing, I started recently talking about people, how we get so reactive to things because we become so at the mercy of other people's viewpoints of us.
Yeah.
We don't navigate through life in a true autonomy of who we are. And what I've been talking about recently is about how we've been so caught up in reaction versus response that we don't even think first before we speak, that we actually say things almost automatically. So we're almost abdicating our independence because we're not saying, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I'm going to say. Because so-and-so said this, I'm going to say this in reaction to that without thinking about it, you know? And so, and I did a video series almost 2 years ago now, talking about how when we talk about codependence, one of those traps is we become like a puppet on puppet strings. Because if somebody says something we react to all the time, we're not thinking, we're not aware of our own choices. It's almost like we're being manipulated by them, but except they're not doing it, we're doing it to ourselves. So the trap we fall into is not having ownership of our own choices, our own responses, our own ability to be interactive. So we don't even know who we are because we're so, like, again, based upon what we look around in the world around us. It can be good feedback. However, really learning who we are in the moment, in this moment in time, is the key to our own autonomy, our own freedom, our own choices. So that's something else to think about.
That's really, hold on, go. I thought I was muted again. That's really beautiful. I loved how, first, because I was muted, I wanted to say with Christine's, it was all about authenticity, right? One day she's this way, another day she's that, but it's still who she is because she knows who she is. So when you're in the moment of who you are and you're absorbed in that, you get to be. Now, did you hear I said you get to be, not you have to. You get to be what you choose. So the red feathers and the funness is so powerful, but yet when she's mommy, she's still fun, but she's a different kind of mommy. So that's how she knows who she is. Barry, I love to identify what you don't know and what you do know. How you're saying that. It's very powerful. Yeah, because we don't know who we are until we know who we are, and we don't know who we are until we take the time.
Yeah. And for so many of us, especially, you know, we serve a lot of people who would consider themselves to be empathic. And as such, you know, it is a little bit more challenging, certainly not impossible, but it can be a little bit more challenging to know who you are because you're identifying so much and experiencing so much of the other person. And, you know, I serve so many women who, you know, they don't even know what they want for dinner, let alone for their life.
Right.
Yeah. And when I ask them, inevitably that question always brings the tears, because when you don't know who you are, you're not taking care of yourself. You're essentially abandoning yourself every minute. And that's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
And so understanding these elements of who you are, even if it's just a base level of starting to journal, is one way to dig into it. Besides, all of us here that are speaking are emotional type of healers and workers. And so that's how you get through the pain is by digging in, everyone.
Yeah. And this reminds me, this is such an important aspect of every single thing that a person wants to achieve. Any program they're going to go into to up level, this is going to be an essential part of it. And I'm thinking about, our upcoming program, Ready for Love, right? Where we're going to help people get back out there who have been really, wanting to create a relationship, not knowing how, or being afraid for some reason, whatever. And such a big chunk of that is, okay, let's figure out who you are and what you want, not just, do I like this person, right, who's coming in, but you really have to know before you start any process, who you are. So I know we've got a lot of, awesome stuff that we're going to walk people through to help them understand who they are. But I'm really curious from the two of you, how do you go about helping someone determine who they are? Mia said journaling. And absolutely, right, there's something really magical that comes out in that process. But, for somebody who's new to this or doesn't really know how to go about it, what does it look like besides, buying a new journal and sitting down with yourself?
Well, I would just say there are a lot of clues along the way. And because we are already adults at this stage of our lives, we've made some really sovereign choices that were exclusively for us. When we stood up for ourselves, or we stood for ourselves, or there had to be sometimes little paper trails where that happened in our lives. And maybe they were few and far between. And maybe those events were so astronomical that you're like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about that. But in the moments when you found your inner strength, that's when you really connected to who you really are. And you knew it because you made a decision in that moment, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Now is this. And you really showed your true human power that we all possess. So I know that for me, the way that I assist other people is looking at their stories of their lives. So as a voice and speaking self-expression coach, it's all about, what do you have to say? What are you here to share with others? What is your message? What is your mission? What is your purpose? What do you get really excited about? We all know, we geek out about certain things and, oh my gosh, we want to tell everyone about it. But we also have created who we are along the way, again, by those stories. And so whether you want to go on stage and tell all of these stories outwardly, or you just want to say, like, listen, I want to have confidence. I feel like the divorce, the illness scare, the whatever has really taken me down, and I don't have the confidence I used to have. It's like, okay, let's look at this, because I like to think of your life. I'm a creative artist, singer, performer. I like to think of your life as a masterpiece, all these pieces. So I love to just get all these little pieces and help you collect yourself so that you can really enjoy. These are my hobbies. These are my values. These are the times when I wasn't going to conform, give away my power. And boy, right, that mama bear, whatever it is that came through you, you were like, roar. And that's the beauty, is staying true to yourself and reconnecting to that. So I support my clients in looking back at those moments and helping to pull out those themes in their lives. I was just at the dentist yesterday, and you have to believe that my story of precancer in my throat and all of that came up. And he was like, wow, it comes up a lot, not just because of that, we all go through things, but who was I in those moments that helped me really move through that with as much grace, with as much ease and love, that I could experience levels of healing. And I'll just conclude with, you're never done, because just because I had precancer and didn't listen to my inner voice doesn't mean I didn't enter into a relationship that was crazy and chaotic and all that. And again, was trying to find my voice. You might have said, well, what are you doing? You were ready. No, there are different levels. And this is where I say, be gentle with yourself, find your truth and stand in that place. And just like little children, you'll see, if you tell a child, they'll get excited, or they'll be like, I'm not doing that, And so it's like, oh, okay. They're really adamant about it. we kind of lose that along the way as we get older. So it is about being youthful, staying true, being fun, right? And lightening up. We're here to live happy lives and be vibrant and happy. And it doesn't mean that that's always our life experiences, however. So there goes the challenge.
Yeah, exactly. You know, two things that I really love about this, and I totally agree, because your purpose and what do you get excited about? You know, what did you used to get excited about when you were little? But also, you know, a lot of times we can't see who we were in a place because we haven't taken the time to reflect. When we're in that place, we're just reacting. We're just trying to survive. And if we never go back, like you're saying, and own our story and really appreciate that person that got us through that, then it's just, oh, that was a crazy experience. Whew, so glad that's over. And not stopping to celebrate who you were, who that champion was that saw you through to the other side. And, you know, I think a big stumbling block for a lot of people that I know that you are kind of brilliant at helping people see is that we have to own all the pieces, even the parts where we wouldn't have said, oh, that was brilliant. You know, you can look back and say, wow, that was, you know, I can see how I might do that differently, but I can also see how it was me doing the best I could at the time with the situation the way that it was. And I can celebrate that person nonetheless. And so that holds, I think, a lot of people up. They're like, I can't be great. I didn't do this right or whatever. And so much of the work, and I think why people can benefit so much from guidance and support, is we can help you. We can stand in that place of your greatness and help you see that for you while you get there for yourself. And so I know that's two pieces of your work that's that I really appreciate. And the storytelling is just incredible. Yeah.
There's also, I want to point out how Christine was talking about her precancer and how that affected her. Look, everybody, it doesn't matter if it was full-blown cancer or precancer, it existed. Same with you. No shame in the trauma of something that started to come and then shifted. This is something that we have to realize, that this is part of our story and our history that we have to address, because it's there. If it comes up and it's bothering you, it's there. Most people wash over it. Oh, well, it didn't go out, so I have no right to feel this way. Get that and change it, right? Change it for the reality, the balance that it is, instead of just denying yourself that you were traumatized by something that didn't kill you. Thank God. It didn't kill you.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Barry, I'd love to hear what kind of some of your mythology for how you help people. Someone comes in and you recognize that they're not fully grounded in who they are. How do you help them get there?
I'm not sure if I can follow what was just said. It's so powerful. So I'm sitting just taking it myself. I would say my work's in the area of relationship, particularly helping people heal past breakups before they choose a new relationship. I know what you're saying about opening up to love. One of the challenges a lot of my clients have gone through is that they've become so identified in that relationship as being their existence, that when they become single, by the divorce or whatever that is, they don't know how to navigate because they lost touch with themselves. Again, back to what I said earlier about, you know, deciding who we are based on reflection of what's around us. In a marriage, especially a long-term relationship like that, it can become so enmeshed that the person who is now divorced doesn't know how it exists. It almost feels like they're leaning one side only because the other person's not there to prop them up. And that, unfortunately, is what happens for other people. I mean, I'm very passionate about people breaking the pattern of codependency and becoming wholly interdependent, because relationships for me are not about 50-50, they're 100-100. And so recognizing that for people, they're not usually trained this way. Now, I've had the advantage, I've been in the personal development field. I mean, my first seminar I took was in 1984. So I've been in this work for a long time. So it wasn't like a quick switch, like now I know who I am. I did the slow route. And I help my clients accelerate that process because they don't want to spend 40 years doing this. And so for me, the journey is oftentimes to do things that bring us back to ourselves. And part of that work, and it's interesting, something about the cancer journey, when things happen to us and we start taking not responsibility, we take that on as if we're a victim of it, like somehow we created it or we did it, so therefore we're wrong, which is all lies, by the way. It's like things happen, so what sort of thing. It's like that happened, what are you going to do with that? And so when we recognize we can be whole and strong even while we're dealing with a crisis or an illness or a challenge or whatever that is, we can actually remember our true nature. And so a lot of us, we carry these burdens that we put on ourselves because we think we should, because of something that happened to us.
Mhm.
And frankly, it's not worth the pain of that. Yes, you may have to deal with the pain of the illness or the suffering of the divorce. At the same time, though, who you are is not based upon that. Who you are is more powerful, more free, more capable. So when you remember that, first of all, you don't get burdened down by it. Secondly, you deal with it much more in a much healthier place, because you're not being the "oh, woe is me" type person who's suffering because of what happened. You start to get your power back, because we do have innate power. We are whole, amazing beings. My philosophy is we're spiritual beings have a human experience. And so whatever happens on the human level is just on the human level. We're much bigger than that. So my work with my clients, even though I may not tell them directly that the spiritual beings have a human experience, because some people that's so outside their reference point,
Yeah.
but I hold it for them
Yeah.
and I help them remember that their power is within them all the time.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I come
love
from.
it. And that's the Greatest You Academy. That's what we created. The same. I love this, how, the truth is the truth, right? And if we can help people get reconnected with their greatest selves, which is their self, that where they are powerful, resourceful, wise, bold and strong, like you say. And when we connect to that, instead of being tossed about by, whatever's coming into our life, we totally can handle it. We see it differently. We don't see possibilities. We don't see how this could work out, how it could be for me, how, when we're in that space of victimhood and just feeling like, it's happening to me instead of for me. So I love that. And like I said, it makes my heart so full to know, like, the truth that me and I are trying to spread out in the world is, being shared by the two of you today as well. So I love that. Are there any particular kinds of practices? Because I totally am resonating with this, and I want to know, so you tell them this, and how do you help them really integrate it into their life?
I'd like to address something first.
Oh, of course.
Sorry.
I'm so excited.
I know, me too. So I'm like, okay, now the good stuff.
I know. So I want to address something that Barry said about the victimhood and all that. In our self-empowerment, interpersonal development, raising who we are, we hear a lot of things. And I just want to say, as creators, we always say, we created this. Okay, everybody, get down off your high horses. You are creators. You create good. Sometimes you create other things. Don't blame yourself, because we get trapped in that whole, I created. And then you spend about 6 months trying to figure out and track back. You're not that talented yet. You didn't create all of it. The universe is giving us clues and giving us guidelines and places for us to grow. So don't think that you created all the devastation. Work on the positive side of things. Remember, it is what you are seeking is seeking you, by Rumi. So it's the same thing. What you're seeking in your reality will come your way. These other things are just gifts from the universe to bring you to a stronger place. So this is something that I've watched over the last 13 years that has bothered me somewhat. And I've wanted to say exactly what I just said publicly, because too many people and I'm the same boat. I remember both Christine and Alon. I've known these two for like almost 13 years.
Since we were babies.
Exactly. So the point is exactly that. We've all had this discussion on what we've created and how this and that. So know that it's not that, guys. It's the universe supporting your growth. And when you see that and move through that, you can be a lightning bolt,
Yes.
lightning bolts. Christine's a lightning bolt. Barry's a lightning bolt. We know how to move through this because we practiced it. So practice it in love. When we talk about love, it's literally because it's a softer, gentler way of being. You hear Lori and I talk about, okay, surrender into your love. Christine was talking about that. Surrender, be gentle.
Yeah.
Talks about that. So it is a thing that we'd like you to take and hold and bring for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Barry, is there any I mean, it probably varies from person to person and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just kind of curious if there are, more specific integration work that that you do with people to get them to that place where they can hold their bold, courageous, wise, resourceful selves.
Boy, I have a kind of big tool chest. I'm thinking what to pull out of that. What I'm actually launching this month.
Yeah.
A new group program, which I'm calling No Strings Attached, because many people I mentioned earlier about this thing about reaction to response. A lot of us, because we are so trained by our culture, not something we chose intentionally, but trained by our culture to become a ping pong ball, so to speak, in what's happening.
Yes.
When somebody says something, we react. When it's our spouse that says something negative, we either believe them or we argue against it. We end up having this disturbance in the force, so to speak, inside of us. And so when we become, or I should say, when we fall into the trap of being so out of our autonomy, when we're being so caught up in somebody else's words, we're giving them the puppet strings I mentioned earlier. So one of the things I help my clients do is really start to listen to their own voice first.
Yeah.
It's funny, Christine does her work with the voice and all that sort of stuff. I do more with the inner voice, less than the outward voice. But the same thing is, what do we tell ourselves? What is it we've been telling ourselves the last decades, millennia of who we think we are? When we dig down deeper and we recognize who we really are, and we start to own that language and tell ourselves the truth, that's a powerful shift. So I'm starting with an simple points about how to disengage the reactive muscle, so to speak, in with my clients to build them to a deeper place so they can become responsive. As simple as saying, when someone says something to you, don't answer right away. Count to 10. It's the simplest thing you can do. They say, like, when you get angry, count to 10. No, when somebody says something, count to 10. They'll wait. And you can then take the time to go, okay, you can breathe. How do I want to respond to this? Because the temptation, or I should say the default, is to go, blah, 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 react, I get upset and everything else. But if we just stop for a second and think, because that's what it takes, it's self-awareness. We become aware that we're going to do this. Let me choose this instead. So there's a lot of little things we can do in daily life, in daily interactions, in our communications, that stops the old tapes from running, if you remember what tapes are.
Right.
We can actually start to be more able to stop and say, you know what, I'm going to change the way this happens. I'm going to change the story this time.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you like 7 different things in there, but that's kind of the way I play with my clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really, can see that so clearly, how that pause and that coming home. Okay, wait a minute. The reactionary part of me would like to do this. Is that what my true self, my greatest self, is that how it would want to act? And so much of it comes down and the work that we all do, and especially, we have specific modules that are built around the nervous system, because when you're in that fight or flight, or when you're really, just focused in on the danger, right, of the situation, your survival system tells you to do one thing, but your higher self, your greatest self, is it's entirely different, right? Because one is acting from just get out of this, the next 2 minutes, and the other one is like, okay, let's take into account your long-term goals, what's the other, person, all the beautiful things, and come up with a decision or in a way of acting that feels really good, as opposed to, that reactionary. But your nervous system, if you're not aware of it, you're going to act from that lower place. You're going to react in a way that later, right, is going to be devastating. And so
let me give you a little illustration, because it's happened this morning. I go for a bike ride every morning as part of my self-discipline and health benefits. I was riding back this morning, and there's a footpath that crosses over the bike path. I was riding back. This woman started walking across the bike path and didn't see me until almost the last second. I was riding towards her. I was waiting for her to keep moving. Like, she kept walking, no problem. She saw me and she froze right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh crap, because I'm going pretty fast. And I'm watching myself interacting with her, but watching her interacting with me at the same time. I mean, it's this sort of out-of-body experience. And I forgot, because again, I'm in the journey too. I forgot to say something like, get out of the way, move, do something. I was like, I think some guttural sound came out of me. I ended up riding around her. But she froze, and I could see her eyes, and she was so deer in headlights, that thing about freeze.
Yeah.
It was so visceral. And I was caught up in it because I didn't choose to do anything about it except just avoid. And so that lesson, Kin, I keep in the lessons every day. I'm not, again, not perfect, still working on this, but watching those things happen, we all have those parts of ourselves where we do freeze or we panic and run.
Yeah.
You know, so those things are important because it is a nervous system reaction.
Yeah.
Because consciousness sometimes disappears when our nervous system takes over.
Yeah.
So,
But training yourself will help bring that in further and further.
yes.
I know that was an unusual situation for you. So any
That's
type of-
truly right. A situation where you want
Yeah.
your survival system to
Right.
be activated.
Yes,
Not when you're sitting across from your partner or making a decision.
indeed.
And any reaction, right? Or any reply is actually a reaction. So how is your reaction going to be? As you start to witness yourself in your reactions, and as they shift and change to a more elevated state, you're going to be going, wow, this is super cool. This is not who I used to be, but I love who I am.
Yeah.
I love who I've become. Practice, practice, practice makes proficiency. And also, as people who elevate and all of that, be aware. I have a lot of spiritual friends that this has happened to, and then they don't become quite so close anymore because I can't drive with them. They start yelling and screaming and cursing. You know, they're beautiful outside their car. And once they get in their car, they become demon on wheels.
Yep.
So it is a consistency. It's not when you're in a fight with somebody, you can be wild. It's not when you're driving your car, you can be crazy with your mouth. It's a consciousness and a way of being.
And that's saying the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
And it's okay if you make a mistake and you get upset, but recognize it and say, wow, I didn't really want that reaction. Please, universe, help me create some, or please, God, whatever you use, help me create a different experience the next time. Our awareness is stating it out to the universe so that it comes back around to support us. You're going to see a huge.
Well, this is also why the inner voice work is so important, because if you're spewing stuff out like that, clearly there's still stuff happening inside of you that needs tending to. Doesn't make you wrong. You're not the worst person in the world, but haters, social media, when we hear people, it's like, whoa, okay. And I won't take that on, but don't be fooled. I see you and hear you, and I can only imagine what you're doing to yourself internally. That helps me to have compassion in those moments. So I'm not reactive like these other people get all huffy puffy. I'm just like, oh, okay. I'm going to let that be because it's just what it is. And it's really, a lot of it isn't about me, but I may have triggered. It's not, I do have some kind of a match. So I'm not going to tell, oh, that's your stuff. You have trauma. No, there was something that happened in the communication, right? However, just be aware that if you are not becoming aware of your internal dialogue, of your internal habits, of your internal conversations or thoughts or whatever programs, then you won't fully have an experience where you become this self-actualized being where you're free. So you're still locked up inside of yourself. And that's always my invitation to, like, I don't want to be locked up. I want to be free. I love just saying what I want to say. I don't need a script. I can come. We all came today. Look, Lori opened it up. I didn't want to have questions. It's so free. We're interplaying together and we're all like leading and guiding and listening. And so I always say your voice is the bridge of your inner connection, which is your inner voice, whatever's happening inside of you, with your outer expression. How are you communicating? So, similarly, I even know if I get upset in the car and I'm like, oh, I'm like, Christine, what is that about? It's really not about the thing or the person or the thing. If I get a little triggered, what is that about?
Yeah.
And so the bigger lesson, like Barry said, it's not what happens to you. We get to recognize, like, we stop playing a victim. Oh, this happened. Oh, now I have this. Oh, we all have it. I think with social media, seeing people's lives, my kids have seen things like, wow, mom, other families, other culture. Yes, we're real people. And, we've removed a little bit of the screen stuff. There's still all those filters and everything, but it's not what happens to you. It's if you can switch that to, how is this happening for me? So if I have a breakdown, if there's huge financial stuff, if something's happening, you know, someone gets hurt, I'm like, okay, I go into an innovative mind, not the ego mind that wants to tell you, you shouldn't have did that. You wasted your money. Why did you spend that last month? But no, there's an ego mind that wants to make good, bad, wrong, right, judge. And then there's like a divine mind that is calm and like, okay, so that's happening. So what are we going to do now about it? All right, well, I can ask someone, I can take out a loan, I start to get a little more creative, lighten up, and things tend to flow. And to what Mia said, then I'm more co-creating with, okay, universe, you gave me this. I see you, wink, wink, but I'm bold and I'm bad because that's who I say I am today. Tomorrow I might pull the covers over my head, have a good cry in it, and that's fine. And I'm still bold and bad or whatever, but tomorrow I'm feeling depleted and it's okay. So just be gentle with myself, let it ride its course, knowing that a new day will come, and just stay committed. Honor your commitments, have radical self-responsibility. If I co-created this and whatever, I learned things and I can do it differently next time. So, tools that help me, to help my clients, or this level of clarity of who you are, who you say you are, knowing your worth, owning your worth, having the self-awareness, and being able to choose more powerfully, to what Barry said, versus, you know, you're the victim and playing that. Really, it can be that simple. And when you go into what did I call it? It's like a God code or a higher power level of thinking. A lot of opportunities, possibilities open up. And so for me, I'll just end with this, but it always comes through. Communication is currency. I really believe that. It's our connection. We can't do this together. Hold up a flashlight, hold up a million flashlights. Like, whoa, yeah, okay. We cannot do this alone. We need to do things together, and like we're doing today. And so in that same frame of mind, keep your mind open, knowing that possibilities come, communicate, ask for support, ask for a loan, ask for advice, whatever it is. And what Barry said, it's your environment. So get connected with people like us today on this call, with programs that are being offered. Put yourself intentionally in those places. You're setting yourself up for success.
100%.
Who your 5 closest friends are. The 5 closest people to you are the ones that reflect around you. And that's where you want to strive to and be. Does that mean that as you grow, you get rid of, and you grow past people? You don't get rid of people unless, there's no more getting along. But it's about being aware of your upward growth and your love.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a matter of fact, we have our module in the Greatest You Academy that is, who's riding in your car with you. Because you do not want road trip buddies who are like playing, yodeling music on the radio, unless yodeling is your thing, or, eating the potato chips and just ruining your car. Like, oh, or telling you, we're not going to make it, we're running out of gas, or whatever it is. You need people in your car with you who are supporting your journey. And that's not always an easy thing to navigate. How do you fill your car? What do you do with people that maybe, hitchhikers that snuck in along the way, all those kinds of things. It's just an important part of the journey. And so we're all in agreement here that is a big piece that we want to look at as we're connecting with ourselves. Who do we have in our car with us? And I love the question that, I heard so many beautiful things, but the one thing that I think people could really walk away from, write this down and remember, Christine said, I wonder what is the possibility here. With every single thing that comes up in your life, I'm curious, I'm open, I'm wondering with, my curious part of me, what's the possibility for me here?
Or how is the gift? Because we have all these gifts. This is a gift giveaway. What's the gift here? That's right. That the universe is actually a gift.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, but I broke my arm. But what was going, like, let's create some self-awareness. What was happening that, whatever. There's so many different things. However, maybe now you need to ask for help. Maybe now you need to rest and take a break. What are the gifts? Maybe now you have time to call that person, to call that friend, to connect with whatever, or someone that said to you just last week, hey, if I can ever help you, ring, ring, ring. Hey, I really could use some help right now.
Yeah.
You know, as you were saying this, Christine, I heard the gift is in the resolution. So in resolving what's going on, we grow, right? And then the next time, I always talk about, we learn in hindsight. So you have to have gone through an experience to know where you're going, where you're driving your vehicle. So when you look back on that experience, you're like, oh, that was the point that I went off. Okay, and what did I learn from this? Oh, right, I don't want this in my experience. Again, you're repeating out loud or to yourself inside that you don't want it to the universe. How many times have you recognized, I don't want so-and-so in my life, or I don't want this, or I don't want that, and then they disappear, or I want something and it appears. So you are more powerful, more creative than you even realize.
Oh, yeah.
And the gift is that it makes you better. It makes you a better, we talked about what version am I, this and this, it makes you better because the next time you're walking, the next time in your car, you might not be, oh, this a-hole, da-da-da, because you had an accident, you whatever. So we don't need to get to that level. I don't believe, if you're paying attention along the way. And sorry, Barry, I didn't mean to.
All right, a couple of quick things, because we said about, you know, a couple of things to say. One is be careful what you ask for, because you're very likely going to get it. One very quick example. I had a license plate on my car that I didn't want to use anymore. I was getting tired of it because it cost me too much energetically. So I said, I need to get rid of the license plate. 2 weeks later, my car got stolen. So be careful what you ask for. It's one little teaching. Second thing, with something springing off what you said earlier, Christine, about something I learned from my master's program. One of the teachings they said was basically how you relate to the issue is the issue. Your stuff happens. What you do about it is what's important. So when you focus on your energy about what happened is so bad, you know, you broke your arm, or you're pre-cancer, or something else is happening, that you then put your focus on that. It's like, no, move that back a bit and say, okay, what am I really focusing on? Oh, I'm focusing on my upset about it. I can do something about the upset. It may not be a change of circumstance. The car got totaled or something like that. If you spend your time moping about the car being totaled, you won't even see the opportunity to get another car. So when you start to focus on, oh, okay, I need to do the inner work, the grief about the car, or the upset about the car, or whatever that is, I can do that. I can work with that part, then I can be free. And that's the profound piece of this work, is that we have autonomy. As you're talking about all this work we're doing in our work with our clients, yes, I work and help people with relationships, but it always starts the relationship with self. It always starts with loving ourselves, because we're the ones that we can actually have governance over. We can't control other people. We might think we can, but frankly, that's never going to work out anyway. Then it's being responsible for ourselves plus somebody else. It's too much work. Just take care of ourselves. So
And that's for the moms too out there. For
exactly,
the moms
yes. I figured you get that one. But it's the thing is that we have the ability, when we don't abdicate our role and our leadership, to take care of ourselves first.
And trust that when we do, we are acting not only in our own best interest, but in everybody's best interest.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, a lot of people have a hard time, because they think, they see how, oh, that's selfish. And if I act in that way, then, you know, I'm going to hurt somebody or whatever. But you have to know that if you are truly connected and acting, you're allowing divinity in whatever form to act through you, because when you're acting as your authentic self, you're connected to divinity. So what you do is benefiting not just you, it's really what is needed outside of you. And that person may not feel it in the moment. They may not understand how it's the best for them. It's kind of like, you know, I use the example for this a lot where, you know, if your 3-year-old child is like, oh my God, I got this new bike and I just can't wait to ride it down this great big open busy street because it, you know, there's all this space for me. And you have to say, you know, no, actually, I can't let you ride it in the street. You have to stay in the back on the whatever. And they may not see it in the moment. They think that's the worst idea ever. So obviously that's a very simplistic example that's easy for us to see. Yes, of course that benefits the 3-year-old, but you can take that example and know that if you are firing someone, if you are breaking up with someone, if you are telling someone they, you know, didn't get the job, if you are whatever you're doing in your experience, you're actually moving them along their path too. And you can trust that and not feel any guilt or hesitation around that. All you have to do
Beautiful.
is listen, not worry about, like Barry's saying, we can't control them. We can't control their experiences. Why would we want to? There's one, entity in charge of that, and it does not have to be me. And I'll just say too, that as you guys were speaking, one of the things that I felt us talking about is, sometimes the gift is that a part of us is coming up to be seen and loved that hasn't been acknowledged in the past. And sometimes that is the gift. So, not that we want to ever spend too much time, I got to figure out what the gift is here, otherwise I can't move on. Sometimes we don't know exactly, and that's okay too. We can just trust that there is one. But sometimes it's very clear that it is that there's a part of us that, we had to stuff down because things were too painful at the time when it was really activated. And now it's coming up and saying, hey, remember me? Can I please be seen and loved now? And we get to do that through an experience. So, and a lot of times an experience gives us many gifts, right? Not just one, when we trust.
Beautiful. Lori, there are two things that I'd like us to go over, and I'd like all of us, starting alphabetical order, to give an exercise or a process. Don't go into depth of it, but tell what it is, and briefly, if you like, and then also what our gifts are that we're giving away. And I'll let Lori share ours, mine and hers with you guys.
Okay.
Great, Lori?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
So let's do true alphabetical order. And we'll have Barry go first this time.
It's so close to that B and C, I know. Well, the thing I mentioned earlier about the counting to 10, this is not part of what I'm giving away, I'll say that in a second, but it's become very present to me that most people tend to be trained to be reactive in the moment. You've got to be so impactful so that we say things we may not want to say, or we say things we regret saying.
Mhm.
So my suggested home play, for example, is to take a moment when you're especially in your stressful communications. And again, it could even be a text message, frankly, because some people text back so quickly they're not even reading what was said in the first place. Yeah. But certainly in verbal communications, especially face to face, when somebody says something that you feel is triggering you on some level, that's making you feel reactive, making you feel upset, that's disturbing your peace, take a moment. And you can even say, you can put your finger up and say, hold on a second, I need to do something. Take yourself out of that moment and count to 10. It may be 6, it may be 12. You can count, just take the time to focus on yourself for a moment, to breathe. At least take 2 breaths. And then consider how you want to respond from that point forward.
Beautiful.
If you do that, you may just save a few relationships. You might also discover you're in less stress than you really thought you were. Yeah. So to do that alone is a simple step to start with. It's a powerful technique. What I'm offering in this.
Why don't we do that after we go through?
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Christine.
Okay, thank you. So, so something I really enjoy doing is journaling about your strengths and the themes in your life. So if you take, you can segment your life from let's say, if you remember back, I remember when I was 3, but if you can do 5 to 10 and 11 to 20 and think about the events, just list the big things that happened in your life, who was around you, how it felt, how you showed up. So, I remember I was 19 and I had an emergency tonsillectomy, and what that was like in my life as I was getting ready for college, all of that. And so I had to find a different voice, allow people to take care of me, all of these things. And so you'll start to see some of the things that you liked or some of the catalysts for your growth. It's really, really cool. Again, something I was always told was well, who do you think you are? But then when I opened up and talked to them or spoke to people, they'd be like, oh, you're really nice. You're actually, so I would say well, why do you think this of me in high school? I'd be like, well, why do you think I'm a B and I'm this? Because you walk around with your head up and I'm smiling and bouncing your step. And I'm like, so what's the problem with that? Oh, I just thought you were all that. I'm like, I do actually like myself. But that was seen as arrogant, you know? And I came from a family in New York Fortunately, my mother, I would write this too. My mother always told me if I had any problems, oh, Christine, they're just jealous. Don't worry, they're just jealous. So I would be like, oh, they're jealous. Like I would have compassion. Like maybe they don't have a this or maybe they don't have a that. But I came from a broken home. I came from so people would still come over and be like, you would never know this. And I'm like, but why? Because I'm not walking around and, spewing it all over everybody and be like, oh, I'm really looking, attitude is everything. So if you want, this is not mine, but this is the Gene Keys. And this is something that I use. If anybody wants to go, they give you a free profile and it shows you your shadow aspect. It shows you your gifts. It'll give you the words, the language for it. And at least that helps you to own all of that. It shows arrogance 3 times in my Gene Keys and I hated it. When people were arrogant, I couldn't stand. If I saw arrogance, ooh, what's going on?
Yeah.
So these are all parts of integration. These are parts that'll help you in your programs that, the better you know yourself, the better you'll be able to make choices for yourself, to make really good choices.
Yeah.
I just want to say the Gene Keys are an amazing tool and they're very in-depth and they break apart into 2 sections and each one is long and powerful. So check them out and see if it's a tool for you. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
known about the Gene Keys for a long time, but you're the second person in 7 days to talk about the so I love it.
I love it. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, and I love those kind of things. I love the personality testing, the Myers-Briggs, Enneagram. There's so many good things that can just help steer us, right? To really help it. And that's kind of on the same note. I would say my tool is to really look at the most important values that you hold and really look at those and write them down and almost create a mantra of who you really are. I am honest, authentic, but those 3 or 4 or even 5 things that just really like this at all cost. Right. And there's no right or wrong here. Someone might say loving, honesty may not be in your top 5 and that's okay. We're not saying that you're not honest. We're just saying that, your value, you just hold it so strongly that when things conflict, this is what you're going to choose. And that is a really valuable. I like to reference people to the viacharacter.org, which is something very similar, which just kind of it's a pretty short form and it just gives you that sense of, kind of the same idea. Many beautiful tools out there for us to start thinking about. But I like to focus on the values because so often when we're making decisions, we're trying to satisfy too many of the values that we hold. So knowing, what is our really core, sometimes we have to choose and knowing which ones are most important to us will help us do that.
Beautiful. I would like to gift you guys gentleness because gentleness is what allows us to grow like sunshine with flowers rather than darkness and going into our shell. And through there, it's about stopping and asking yourself, put your hand on your chest, your heart, and ask yourself, how do I feel? Because in this moment, how do I feel? Am I angry? Do I like the way it feels? No? Well, I want a different result, then go for it. If you're happy and you like how you feel, acknowledge that and ask for more. One of the best ways besides stopping like that, it's so simple to just stop and do that, to get to know yourself is the mirror work. Don't be afraid of the mirror. We're harsh and to ourselves. And as we work through the mirror work, the I love you, not I love you, Mia, because I've incarnated many times, but I love you. The work comes out, the information comes out, and you get to heal it and be gentle with yourself. How do I feel? If you're rattled and shaken, okay, then let's heal that part. Let's be back centered. But knowing you want to be in the state of your own grace, that's the space that you'll grow to, right? The universe is conspiring with you every moment to gift you what you want. So that's what I'd like to share with you guys. Now, Barry, you're going to share with us your.
Yeah, tell us about this amazing gift.
So I actually have a self-love guided meditation practice that I teach my
Beautiful.
clients, and I'm basically providing the guidebook for that, because frankly, as I work in my work, I mean, I've been nicknamed the Love Doctor by my clients and friends for years. And so love is really central to my work, even though it's not just about relationship, it's about the relationship with ourselves. So I have a self-love guide, which I basically am giving as a gift in this opportunity to be a practice you can use every day. And it's just simply a practice that you do twice a day. Like taking medication on, it's much better for you, I think. And by using this practice, if you do it for 30 days, you'll change your relationship with yourself and you'll change your relationship with everybody else. Because when you start to recenter yourself back in yourself, it becomes much easier to navigate every other relationship.
Oh yeah.
That's the gift I'm offering.
Yeah.
So I chose a course that I did. It's a little it was a challenge, and so it's in there with me and the group, and it's called Confidence on Camera. You don't necessarily need to go put yourself on camera or be the only person speaking unless you want to be. But being what we are today, look at us today, we're all together. So many people are doing Zoom calls. And how do you just have this level of confidence to speak up, to speak your truth, to be authentic, all of the themes that we talked about today? You don't have to take it to the flamboyance of what I experience or who I am, but you are your own version of that. So it is very, very powerful to be able to communicate effectively and to be able to stand in your own internal power. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. And that's it. And you take that with you everywhere you go, whatever you do. And so I thought this was really appropriate for our gift giveaway, right?
So good. Yes. And I want to just say thank you for your gift, both of you, but thank you for doing it so powerfully your way. And, you know, us knowing like it doesn't have to look like your way, but you standing in it so confidently, so beautifully, and owning it, there's no toning it down, there's nothing. And that gives us permission, right, to whatever ours looks like, to do the same. So that's something that you do so beautifully. So thank you for that example out in the world.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah. So our gift, the gift that me and I are bringing to the gift exchange, I guess. No, it's not an exchange because everybody gets everything. But it's our 30-some page PDF, which we put a lot of time and effort to understanding, like this whole journey. What is the greatest self? What is the greatest you? What are the aspects of it? And what are some of the, the tools that you can use to access that? And it includes, all the things that we talked about today, understanding who you are, relationships, and your health, and so many other things that, we could probably continue this conversation for another 12 hours amongst us, because there is so many beautiful things. But the PDF, the ebook is really meant to kind of give you that broad overview, so you can start to really see, oh, there is a map. There is a way for me to know what the greatest version of me is, and really start to live into that.
Beautiful, thank you. And before we say goodbye, let's just see if there's any...
I don't want to.
I know. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? And if not, it's okay.
And we're going to be able to contact and get on the list of these amazing people. And of course, you have ours as well. So if those of you watching the replay come across something or want some further information, you're going to know how to do that, how to get a hold of us.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in another
Thank you.
event.
Love to you all.
Thank you guys for being here with us.